I'm about to have a Zoom meeting.
Hey, Miss Hartfield. I have a question. Hello?
Sorry, I had my sound off. I was trying to get everything turned on.
I got a question. So I was worried because I didn't see that where anyone had logged in yet. And I was looking through all the different emails. One of the latest emails they sent said that, oh, never mind. That was the GroupMe thing. Okay. So this is the right.
I hope so.
Okay. Never mind. I forgot the GroupMe was a thing on my phone. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll just wait patiently still. Sorry.
Okay.
Brandon Miller left his bottle down in the kids' room, and I was like, oh, but they thought that she was insulting Katie.
We're getting feedback.
Hello. Hey, Stan. You're muted.
There we go. How are you? Long time no see.
I know. I feel like you have such a different look every time I see you.
Yeah, I haven't cut my hair very much over the past 6 months, that's for sure.
Yeah, nobody has. I just got my hair done for the first time since February over the weekend. It was great.
Yeah, right? I know. Mine's getting pretty shaggy too. But
I
I'm
like
going. So, what you gonna do?
Yeah, I
How's
mean, I
everything
like it.
going? I guess the depot's all off and running, and
Yeah, it's awesome. I hope you can come visit it sometime. It's a dream come true, really.
yeah, no kidding. I definitely want to come see it.
Yeah, yeah,
We all too
good.
busy. Got the Bio Summit coming up. All kind of things flying around.
Yeah. Are you gonna attend it all?
I am. Of course, a lot of it's during teaching hours. So, but
Yeah.
there's a couple of ones I think that I can grab. I can grab during a planning period here or there and after work. So,
Yeah,
do better.
definitely. Afterwards will be good. It'll be all recorded. I mean, live is always nice. I can't even count how many things I say. I'll get the recording, watch it later, and I never do, but
Right.
can only do what you can do.
Oh, hey.
Oh, sorry, that's me.
I think I'm on a thrill ride.
I know it. Thanks, Janet.
Sorry about that.
Hi, Cynthia.
Sorry about that, guys.
Doesn't look like they're connected yet.
It looks good in there.
The mouse to the top of the screen. Just within the top and then turn the switch. Scroll over your AirPods.
I swear I've connected it before.
Uh-oh.
Janet, can you hear people with your earbuds on? No. I know, I was
It's because we're in the same room.
I don't mind on mute, so it won't mess it up.
Yeah, but I can.
You can just hear me talking.
Are we supposed to be on the that Google the chat room thingy?
I'm trying to figure out why it's.
It might be because you're too Ooh.
I think it's this.
Can you hear your Zoom settings or your Mac settings? Your audio, that's nothing.
Okay, so what do I do?
Okay.
For Zoom, go to the slider up.
Sorry about that.
Change this.
We're still trying to figure this out over here.
Same system. Yeah, so that anytime you change it on your Mac.
It actually sounds okay now. After you just spoke, it was okay.
Okay. I was just getting it through, because Brittany has her computer up over there.
Hello.
And so having two in the same room with the sound on, you get this weird feedback
Yeah.
going back and forth. Okay. And as you can see, I also have kids in the back of the room doing lab work who are going to promise to be absolutely quiet at 4:15, right?
Perfect. Well, so we won't get started till 4:15, but we just wanted to pop on early in case anyone had any questions, but y'all feel free to do whatever you need to do until then. It looks like everybody has a recognizable name. So we're good there. Maybe Brandy, Austin, if you want to change yours to your whole name, that would be great, just so everybody here can get to know you, and I'll save you a minute later.
Cynthia, set the clock back.
I haven't done that yet.
It's okay.
But then again, Cynthia's always ahead of me.
Janet, we did, sorry. We did make root beer the other day. What else
Oh,
have
how
we
did it
done?
turn out?
It, only one of them smelled like beer.
That's good.
We've done root beer, cheese. We made bread, but that was already on the agenda. We've done a lot of food related industry things. But yeah, only one of the root beers smelled like beer.
Well, that's good. I did root beer, and the kids kept telling everybody they were getting turnt in biotech.
Yeah, my kids were like, we're getting lit in 7th period. I was like, shut up.
But do you want me here tomorrow? Keep your mouth shut.
Stop saying, let's take shots. You know, like,
Can you hear?
No.
Oh, okay.
I took them out.
But can you hear them? Because I have mine in.
I know, my computer's on. I just turned it off so it'd be
Oh,
easier to see that way,
okay.
and no feedback.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, obviously, we don't teach together anymore in the same building. So I was setting up the lab stuff, but setting up the technology stuff we're a little bit slow on.
It's all good.
This is a first, and it's a huge undertaking, and so we'll all work through all the glitches. We're really happy that you guys are doing this.
We've been planning this, I don't know how long.
March?
March?
Yeah, well, we started pre-COVID because I know Megan and I met you guys at your school.
That's right.
You guys started before that, so.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Can everybody hear me okay with a mask on?
Yeah.
Cynthia's saying no.
Cynthia said no.
wait, what?
Can you hear me okay with my mask on?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Sorry, my colleague is sitting across from me, so we have to wear a
Oh,
mask.
hey, Rebecca.
She's in my room. I should have put our stuff in 2 separate rooms so we could have had a mask break, but I didn't do that.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
we've been, I don't even know how to describe quarantining together. So we normally don't wear masks, but since we've got kids in the back, it's mask time.
That's right. We mask all day, every day.
Yep. Let's see. I'm gonna close this a little bit. So did everybody get all your kits? Are you excited? So if there's something wrong, you can blame me or my student who pipetted everything.
I think I counted correctly and got the right number of things in each box. So
Okay. I hope so. Oh, then let's just blame Megan if something's
yeah,
wrong.
I mean, it's fine. I'll take the fall.
Okay, that's good. I like it. Megan and Kristen, do you have slides to show for the first part, or do you want me just to show my intro slides?
Nope, we'll just, I'll just welcome everybody and then kind of hand it over to you guys.
Okay.
Everything's in the binder, so I don't want to waste too much time, talking about us or anything.
Yeah.
So we'll just give the bare minimum and move forward. And we'll start right at 4:15.
Okay. My husband was going through the binder and said it looked very organized and that I must not have put it together.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm glad it looked that way. Hopefully it is.
He does love me. He's like, this doesn't look like you. Oh,
Can you guys hear all the kids in my house or is it okay? Okay.
They're not that loud.
All right.
There's an occasional noise in the background.
They're all home from school and we do a babysitter share. And so it's at my house at the beginning of the week. So hopefully it's quiet, but I'll move later.
Laura, your name is perfect to work at our school, by the way.
Yeah.
Amber High School.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I was, they did not name the high school after me.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hey, Katie.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Good.
I guess no baby yet?
No baby yet. No, he's still safely in my stomach right now. So, so allowed me to be here with you tonight.
Awesome.
Yeah, I usually try to wear like a mini PCR t-shirt, but none of mine fit anymore. So I just have this, this like open
You can see
fleece.
below. You could have still like pulled it on.
yeah, right. Just like and left it above my.
Except if you stood up. And then it might be a CNN moment. So sorry, not appropriate. No, I don't think so. If you teach biotech, you have to have a sense of humor. You let me touch him. I love this.
Because we have all sorts of special crazy. Oh, I'm on mute. Never mind.
Oh. So we have a special guest in the lab today who is not normally here.
Aww.
This is Walker, who is Brittany's dog, who goes to school with her every day. He's training to be a therapy dog.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
Good. Are you going to let him out of your office, Brittany, or is he going to be your personal therapy dog? All right.
Oh,
It is 4:15. So it does look like we're missing a few people, but we're going to get rolling because we need to keep on schedule and respect everybody's time. So welcome. This is our very first virtual hands-on training. You guys, we are, we meaning everybody on here are, I don't know, pioneers in this really. So one fingers crossed, not double. Let's do this. And I know that you guys have been walking the walk in terms of pioneering so many new educational methods recently and starting with last spring when it was thrown on you. So I know you get it when you say thank you in advance for a little bit of grace as we work through all this. But we'll do this and it'll be fabulous because we're working with the best of the best with Brittany and Jana and Megan. So thanks for joining. I'm Kristen Boskin. I am the director of the Rural Teacher Training Initiative at the Georgia Bioed Institute. And we have, we're part of a larger organization called the Center for Global Health Innovation. And within that umbrella, there are 4 divisions, soon to be 5. So there's Georgia Bio, we are the Georgia Bioed Institute focusing on workforce development. So usually that is through being able to work with teachers like yourselves and get you the different experiences and equipment and things that you need to be able to be effective at your jobs without having to pull stuff out of your own pockets. Then we have the Georgia Global Health Alliance, and the last piece is the Crisis Coordination Center, the Global Health Crisis Coordination Center, GHC3. And they basically do what the CDC cannot do. So working with the private sector to help respond to any sort of pandemic, such as the one we're in now. So welcome today. I'll turn it over to Megan to introduce herself quickly. And then we've also got Katie Martin. You can see she's joining us from Mini PCR, and they are a partner of ours in equipment and going to be doing a couple of the sessions of training. And then after Megan, we'll turn it over to Janet and Brittany to get going.
Yeah, hey guys, I am Megan Heafy. So I work with Kristen in the Bioed Institute. My background is as a high school biology, AP biology, and chemistry teacher. So I'm right here with you guys. I recently got my master's at Georgia State, basically teaching biotechnology. Yeah, I'm here to support you guys with curriculum. I run the Equipment Depot. So if there's anything you need for your classroom, let me know. All right, Janet.
Sure. So I'm Janet Standevin, and we're getting an echo.
Let me see.
Sorry. Okay, so I'm Janet Standevin, and I teach biotech and scientific research at Lambert High School. I also run with my co-leader, Brittany, our iGEM program. And so when you see kids walking around in the background, they're working on their iGEM experiments. So my background actually was in social studies, but then I got my master's in chemistry a few years ago, and then came over to the dark side of biotech a few years ago. Brittany?
Hey guys, we're trying to figure out the mute unmute in here with two computers. Can you guys hear me okay? Hey, so Janet and I have worked together for years and years. Like she said, I am working with her in iGEM and all things biotech. I was a science teacher for 15 years and ran a science department, taught mostly honors bio, AP bio, scientific research, that sort of thing. And this is actually my first year out of the classroom, and I'm working at a different high school doing instructional coaching, specifically working with STEM teachers. So it's been lots of fun, but what a year. Whew.
Okay, so I guess we'll go ahead. Oh, Phil, yes.
I think he was just muting.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, did he want to introduce himself or?
Yeah, Phil, you're welcome to introduce yourself if you'd like.
No, that's fine. You all carry on.
Okay. So I thought rather than have us all take 20 minutes this first day to go around the Zoom and introduce ourselves, we would do a couple of people at each break so that by the 20th person, we're not all bored and forget. So I'd like to go ahead and jump right into aseptic technique. And I've got some stuff set up for us back here. So I'm gonna first go through the slideshow. You have the handouts in your beautiful binder for aseptic technique. And I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Where's present? Ah, the Zoom button's covering it up. There we go. So basically, I'm sure all of us are really excited to get right into it. So we're gonna start, actually, I have this flip. We're gonna do aseptic technique for about 15 minutes, and then we'll get into micropipetting. It would be really helpful if you guys would raise your hand, like your virtual hand on your expression button. And then we could get a count of those of you who have micropipetted before and feel comfortable, and those who are brand new to it. So I can kind of gauge how fast or slow we need to go. So would you please give me some feedback, and then for how many of you have done micropipetting? And I'm gonna let Brittany, will you kind of scan through for me? Thanks. Okay, and then we're gonna end today with some fabulous guest speakers. So we've already done the introductions, and please remember to join the GroupMe if you haven't done so already, because as you have questions, I use GroupMe all the time with my students and with my iGEM team. So I respond to GroupMe really quickly. So if you have questions as you're going through the weeks, please feel free to throw something up there. Or if you have a great idea, see something, also the same. Obviously, you guys know about muting, which is great. And I think that's it. Okay, so we're going to jump into aseptic technique, and I'm going to watch over here. So I teach this topic multiple ways, and I gave you some ideas for how to do it, which is, but the green ones I wouldn't recommend doing right now for obvious reasons. So the first one is the hand washing lab, and I can share all of this on a Google Doc, but basically the students use just water or nothing on their thumb, and they swab it with a sterile tip, and they swab it on a Petri dish. And then they wash their hand with water, their thumb with water, and swab it on a Petri dish. And then they do their other hand with soap and water, and then they do soap and water and alcohol spray, hand sanitizer. And then they all do this on a quadrant on a Petri dish, and hopefully they see the difference in it. I obviously wouldn't do that right now. It takes about 2 days to grow. You can grow the plates at room temperature, and that's fine. After you grow the plates, you never, ever, ever want to open them. And so we kind of put parafilm around them if we decide to do this. And then I bleach and autoclave so that we're not sending any pathogens out into the world. The one that we're going to use today is the glow germ, and we'll get to that in a second. And then another suggestion I had was step 3, which is when they can make 2 LB plates and just leave one open. And I'll show you what that looks like over here. Oops, as I kill myself. So can you see me? Is that working? Can you see me?
No, it's still on your other.
Oh, okay.
I think your AirPod is.
Yeah, okay, so let's do this. There we go. So now can you see me? Yeah,
No,
okay, so
we're still hearing it from your other camera.
yes, but can you see me here?
Yeah, we can't see the stuff that you're working with though.
Oh, okay, hold on. And then unmute me.
It's
If
still
you
your,
right-
it was still your computer camera.
If you right click on the buttons, you can pin the 2 Janet Stevenson computer screens. And then that way I can see the Petri dish you're holding up on the one screen. Yeah, I can see that nicely, but you have to pin it so that you can see those 2 screens.
Or you can double click on Janet's screen.
You good now? Okay. So when I'm talking about aseptic technique and leaving a plate open, what I would do for that number 3 suggestion is I have the kids pour or use melted agar and pour a couple plates. One, which I just have them pour. And of course, students like leave the top off, they like cough in it, they do all kinds of nasty stuff. And then we go through what is aseptic technique. And then I have them pour the next plate using the best method possible, which is of course, only tipping it up slightly, pouring the liquid agar in, and then using a Bunsen burner to flame the top of it. Again, I wouldn't, if I were doing that right now, I wouldn't open the plates. I would use an autoclave to dispose of. But you all got in your kits a small microcentrifuge tube of glow germ, of this stuff. Oops. I'm trying to figure out which camera I'm supposed to be. You got it? You're good. Yeah. Okay. Of the glow germ. And so did you all find it in your, okay, and you've all been given a black light. So Brittany, do you want to give me your hand? Oh, never mind. I'll do my hand. Here. Okay, so the best way is, let's see if we can do this. There we go. Is just, have you tried this with your hands? And then I sometimes, oh, this is gonna be nasty. Have the kids touch stuff around the room after they've done this before telling them what it is. And then of course you take the black light, turn off the lights. Okay.
Up a little bit more.
There we go. Can you see the glowing?
Yep.
Okay. There as well. Okay, then after we do the glow germ, this is usually done at the beginning of the year when we have them learning how to wash their hands. We then have them do the happy birthday song of method of washing their hands, and then we check their hands again with the black light. And then of course they're seeing where they didn't wash properly, which is usually a really good experiment and really visual for the kids. So the next thing I wanted to point out for aseptic technique is just some simple ideas. Can you prop it up?
About that.
Yeah, that's better. Okay, this is better. So some simple some simple ideas. So a lot of students, when they're opening a stock jar, for example, they might open it and either leave the cap upside down on the table or place the cap on the table, and then this is open to whatever wants to fall in it. And so having the kids really think about, if there was glitter in the air, where would the glitter land? And so they get to the idea of, again, if we were pipetting out of this, we would only put it to the side slightly as we would pipette into it, and then close it back up. And of course, if you have Bunsen burners, you can use the whole flame the opening and all of that. If you don't have Bunsen burners, then I wouldn't do that. So if we go back to the slides, sorry. Oh, there it is. I've linked for you, first of all, the thinking about the surfaces for the students' touch. And then I also have linked some of the videos that are commonly used for on the next, there we go. So with the glow germ, it really works really well to have the students do it in partners. So one of them gets to use the special hand cream, and then both of you wash your hands. And sometimes you can do it with washing just with water and seeing how effective it is, to all of the way with soap and water and hand sanitizer. I've linked a video for you, of course, which shows the proper hand washing technique. And then on the next one, there's fabulous Biorad, AdGene. There are a lot of videos out there on YouTube that teach all of these individual techniques, which companies tell us this is one of the most important techniques that students need to learn and think about all the time. So even as simple as the Petri dish, I can't tell you, even with my level 2 kids, how many students will take a lid off and leave it upside down. Or when they're pipetting, they just leave the box open forever and ever and ever. So teaching your kids to think about the air being filled with glitter is one way that I kind of try to get that idea across. Does anybody have any questions for aseptic? This video for the stupid proofing is actually excellent, excellent. It's just a short 5-minute video. She is either a doctoral student or a grad student in a lab, and she does some excellent short videos. And this one I think is really particularly good at the beginning of the year when your kids are having to learn how to do experiments and not mess up. Come back.
Janet, are you able to angle your phone down a little bit more? We can't see your table.
Like this?
Or whatever camera's going on right now.
So yeah, it's the one that's picking up your video, like the
Okay.
one that you're recording from. I guess your headphone is connected to it.
That's Brittany, my living tripod.
Okay. Okay, that right there is good.
Okay, great. Okay, so are there any questions on aseptic? So I know there's a ton of good information out there. Has anybody come across anything other than the methods that I described that would be willing to share?
Other than just using ethanol, copious amounts of ethanol on everything. when in doubt.
Okay, all right. So I can't see with the survey, how many of you have micropipetted? Megan and Kristen, is it many haven't? Okay, so what
I see some never, yeah.
Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to, let's see, we're going to not have you hold that the whole time. Give me a second to figure this out. I'm going to.
Okay, and what I think would be better is if we just ditch the earpod.
Yes.
altogether.
And the other thing would be is if we can go through this.
That part we might use this. Okay, but I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay. All right. Hey guys, sorry, please bear with us. We're trying to do all the technology things. Can you guys hear me? That's gonna be a no.
Like you're muted over there. Yeah. So let's see. I'm gonna do same as system. There we go.
Okay.
Now mute everybody else.
So, okay, so can you see now the tabletop where I'm working?
Yes.
Here.
Yes.
People can see this? Yes. Okay. So this is a micropipetter. And will everybody go ahead and grab your micropipetter and your tips?
I don't know that they can hear you.
Can you guys hear me?
What size do you want? Does it matter?
What size he said.
Everybody's
Oh,
got
the 2
a
to
20.
20.
There we go.
Grab your 2 to 20 that was sent in the kit. Sorry. I should try not to be fancy with the cameras and just should have gone old school. There we go. All right. So I give up. I give up.
Oh, it's good.
Give me a chalkboard. I want a chalkboard. All right. So do you have your micropipetter? Okay. So if you'll grab it, it's just like a, you're shaking hands with it almost. So if you can see, let's see where I'm going here. If you can see here, that you've got, my thumb is pushing on the plunger. If you push down on the plunger, you'll feel an area of resistance. And then go ahead and push again, and you'll go down to a second level. So that first area of resistance is called the first stop. And then the second area is what actually pushes an extra little puff of air to expel the liquid out of the pipette tip. So go ahead and, practice a few times going to the first stop and then the second stop. Okay, so the next thing is go ahead and get a tip. And so oftentimes people think they have to really jam when they use a tip. Let's see if I can get this. Really jam the tips into the box. You don't have to do that. You just need to place it in there, push it down firmly, and pull it up. And then if you, so I've got my tip on here, you can see that. And then if you go ahead and put down into the liquid, here we go. Sorry, there we go. So you're going to first, you want to push your pipetter down to the first stop first, then release it to pull the water up. And you should be able to see, where is it here? The small amount of liquid that's in the bottom, in the tip of the tip. Okay, so now when I go to expel that, you're going to take it and then you're going to go to the first stop first and see how I've got a bubble, a water bubble there on the tip. If I only went to the first stop, it wouldn't release. So, but going to the second stop, that puff of air releases the surface tension and allows the liquid to dispense. So again, go ahead and practice that a couple times and shout out on the chat if you're having any issues. So again, you're going to push down to the first stop and then go to the second stop. And you should see if you've done it properly with the same setting, your bubbles, your water droplets should be the same size. If they're a different size, you've probably gone to the second stop. Oh, Cynthia, the 200 tips, don't they fit on the 2 to 20? So
They
I have
should.
200 tips that I'm using on my 2 to 20. Go ahead and try that.
Really? They don't fit after all that?
No.
Okay, there are extra tips in the micro pipette box. So use the extra tips.
I have
for
tips,
now.
don't worry. I just
I
wanted
know
you to
you
know
do.
that these were the wrong ones. They don't fit. But he's so good.
Same.
I got some.
The tips they got don't fit the pipetters.
Yeah, the ones I
No.
grabbed out of the depot. That's fun.
All good, don't worry about it.
So your mini PCR pipette came with some extra tips. You can use one of those extra tips for now.
Yes, there were a few extra tips in the box.
Yeah.
Okay, let me know when you have your tips. So what I have the students do is I have them practice with water first, and we're in lab, we have black, lab tables, and I just let them pipette water onto the lab table. And I have them dial to all different kinds of size amounts. So if you see here, I have mine set, I know it's backwards for you, sorry, but you can see I have mine set at 2 microliters. And to change the amount, all you need to do is I'm just twisting this dial and you can see it. Oops, sorry.
Nope, nope, that way.
I was obviously not meant to work on the Home Shopping Network. So can you see that as I twist the dial that the amounts change? So what I would suggest you try to do right now is do a couple droplets of 2 microliters and then do a couple droplets of 5 microliters, a couple droplets of 10 microliters, and a couple droplets of 20 microliters, and do them on, we sent you parafilm. So you could either do it on the parafilm if you wanted to, which is very hydrophobic, or you could just do it on a paper plate, something that has some kind of wax covering to allow the bubbles to form a nice bubble and not spread out completely. And then we're going to ask you to show somebody who's got a nice array of bubbles. And I know Stan is an expert at micropipetting. So I may call Stan out on this. Or if somebody's having issues, to please, this is our time to practice. There's no questions that's stupid. I literally didn't know how to pour a Petri dish until 8 years ago. So I'm completely almost self-taught and have learned it, and I have done everything stupid that you can possibly imagine. Well, maybe you can now that you've seen me try to operate 2 cameras in a lab.
Janet, I'll jump in here too and say,
Swing it
if you
around.
have this type of micropipetter, the volume dial might look a little different for you than the one Janet showed. If you have this type of micropipetter, you can use the black dial here.
Katie, you're muted.
Oh, I'm
No,
muted. Can
no,
you-
I can hear. Maybe your
thing is
muted.
muted.
Oh, never mind.
I just wanted to point out the volume dial. There's a black one here. You can also use this on the top, and both will change the volume in your window here.
Yeah. And I'm gonna.
Question.
Question?
So on the micropipette that we were shipped, she was just saying that the dial is different.
Yeah.
How do I read that measurement? So mine has 2 black numbers and then a blue number, which is different than what hers is.
The blue number is a decimal. So if it says like from top to bottom 0 to 1, that would be 2.1 microliters.
Sorry, I didn't realize you had a different pipetter. So you just twist right here instead.
Yep.
And you're going to have a black and red, or you're going to have a black and blue, where the black's the whole number and the red or the blue is the decimal. Is this what you?
How do I get this one to go up to, she said to do 4, go up to 4 or 5. How do I get that to go to 5? Because I can't get past like 299.
She
you-
might have the.
Can you hold yours, Brandy, all the way up at your computer screen so I can see it?
Yeah.
It's possible you
Can you hold it even closer so I can see what the numbers look like?
Mhm.
Down a little bit.
So if you go right now,
You're at 20.
yeah.
29.
So you're at 20, which is the upper limit. So when it says 200, it's actually 20.0. So now dial back down out of that.
Way down.
Yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
I'm going way down. Okay.
Yeah, to 040.
Okay, I
We'll
was
give
reading the
you
numbers
4.
in an incorrect order then.
So Janet, tell them the danger of going above or below.
Okay,
So that's how you break pipettes.
got it.
I don't know how much, Katie, you might want to talk about this, how much these are, but I know even, this is a different brand. These were, I think, about 250 a piece. My good Research Plus ones are around 450 a piece. Those springs are really, really highly tuned. And so you want to stress, I don't let just anybody micropipette. I make them watch the video first, which is linked, and then I talk them through it. And then I make them, okay, everybody, hands on, go slowly, step by step, so that they don't destroy my pipetters.
So these are not quite the $250 pipettes. So
Yeah.
everyone is equipped with the $50 pipettes from Mini PCR.
What the kids want to do is snap this too. They want to snap. They will sit there, nervous energy, and go snap, snap, snap.
Like a fidget cube.
Yeah, that's no good either.
So now that you've got a tip on, let me get my tip. So you've got your tip on there, right? You see there's a plunger, this plunger on the side. So if you push down that plunger, it ejects the tips. That's what the students love to do and shoot them at each other. So we encourage them not to do that. How's everybody doing with your water droplets? Good? You ready to move on to something more dangerous?
Hey, Janet.
Yeah.
For people who haven't done it before, I get page protectors and they do different dots for each one of them.
That's a great idea.
I love that.
I'm stealing
They've got one. I made it for every single micropipette I have, kids have to do it and they can see the size difference. I mean, the dots are all the same size, but then they can see what it looks like when they micropipette it.
That's,
Go ahead.
hey, Cynthia, is that something that you would be willing to share later on today? We're going to talk about a bunch of resources that we've loaded into a Google Drive folder that we're willing to share with you guys. I think that would be a great addition if you're willing. If you would email that to me, I'll share my email address with you later.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Okay, so now we're gonna move to something more dangerous, which is your food dyes. And so what I think would be helpful is if you take your box of food dyes and if you have a paper plate or 4 glass beakers or something. Sorry, I meant to prep you for that and I forgot.
Question, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
You were talking about the first stop and second stop. There is, when I press on mine, there is no additional liquid that comes out in between the first stop and the second stop.
Yeah, there may not be any additional liquid. It really depends on the surface tension of the liquid. If you're doing something that has like a high viscosity, like glycerol, or a loading dye that has glycerol, you might get some small droplets that cling to the inside of the tip. And when you go to the second stop, it forces most of them out. But with water and with food coloring that we're using today, you might not see any difference.
Okay.
And so if you've got something that can take out the different colors, I'm trying to do it here. Literally, all you need is a tiny, tiny little dot of the food colors. Yeah. So this is when I had set up the other camera. So I'm going to move over to the other camera. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. And then I'm going to show you what we're making before you get to do it. So this is an activity that I have my students do, which is the color wheel. And I'm going to share my slides so you can see. So here's just the screen that I use for teaching them about how to read the pipetters, how they use it. And then this is the water exercise. So something that's important is students often like to go to the bottom of whatever container they're pipetting out of. And of course, if they go to the bottom and they release it, what they're doing is creating a vacuum and they're not going to get any liquid up. So it's important, if you saw on that previous slide, to see that you want to go into the liquid, but not all the way to the bottom. And then another technique, borrow this for a second. Another technique is also when you go into a liquid, you want to pull the tip, kind of drag it up the side so that you're getting any liquid that's adhering to the outside of the tip. You're not having any extra on the outside of the tip. Because of course, when you're measuring 1 microliter or 2 microliters, those little droplets add up to a PCR that works or a PCR that fails. So can you see these color wheels? Oh, sorry. Ah! Can you see these beautiful color wheels?
Beautiful. Yes.
So this is what you're going to be creating if you follow. There we go. Yeah, all of this is in the Google Drive. Here is the chart that I have the students do. And so I have them use the piece of parafilm like an artist palette. So for example, I'm going to go over and I'm going to turn this, and Brittany's going to be my cameraman.
I'm really not great at this job, guys. Sorry. Sorry for the motion sick folks.
Yeah. So here we go. If you see, so if I needed to do the green, I tell the kids to think like a biotechnologist and think about how to use the fewest amount of tips. And so I would do all of the greens, all of the yellows, all of the reds, all of the blues, and all of the waters. And I use the parafilm like an artist palette. And so sometimes what I have the students do is draw circles, but I'm not gonna bother doing that today because I know how to keep, you want me to just grab a quick Sharpie? Sure. While I tune my pipetter to 12 microliters. So you can see that I'm at 12 microliters. 7. Yes. And so the amounts add up to 20 microliters. So I use this lab as a way to gauge really how well they read directions, how well they follow directions, and then their fine motor skills. So I'm going into my green bubble and I'm going to draw up 12 microliters. So wait, where's my camera? There we go, 12 microliters. And then I'm going to put that into, let me see what I'm doing. Put that into the first circle in the parafilm. And then I went to the second stop and I've got a nice bubble. Can you see that? Nope, but they're about to. Okay. You didn't know you were going to be a camera person. Go over here to the parafilm. I'm trying. And then the next amount is 8 of the yellow. So I just want you to see what happens when you mix the colors. Although I would normally do all of the green at one time. You don't have a yellow on here. Ah! Yes, I do. That's okay. Yellow. And so when I pipette into the bubble, can you guys see that? I teach them the technique of mixing by pipetting up and down by only going to the first stop. And when I went to the first stop, and then the second stop, I now have a nicely mixed bubble. Can you guys see that okay?
Yeah.
And then we're going to take 5 microliters of that and put it there on the filter paper. And so what's really, really great about the filter paper is I'm going to hold up an example here, is you can see from the differences in the colors, when you compare them, you can see if students pipetted, first of all, the right colors and the right amounts. But then you can also see, and they can see, any of the spattering or the smattering of the colors. And they won't have noticed it when they were pipetting. You want me to put it down? No, it's okay. Okay, I've got it. They probably didn't notice that it was smattering or splattering as they were pipetting. But then when you tell them, think about if that was cells, or think about if that was enzymes. You can see how easily you can contaminate your surfaces with pipetting. And so this really makes it visual. To a good pipetting technique is the essence of any good microbiology or biology, biotechnology lab. Okay, so we're at almost 5 o'clock, and I know we have a guest speaker. Should we continue doing all of the samples so we can see and compare?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the screen, and if anybody has any questions or issues, both Brittany and I will be available to answer on either one of our screens. I'm gonna take that one and I'll take this one. There we go.
I think we're on a
Oh, can you unshare?
maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, and if anybody needs any extra help pipetting, I'm available all day tomorrow. Just email me, I can walk you through.
It's one of those things that looks super easy until you start doing it and you end up with spatter marks all over your filter paper.
So Brittany, there are definitely some participants today. We've got the whole spectrum who this is the first day to hold a pipette, and then to those who have worked in research labs. So, but everybody on here is a veteran teacher, and I know I get a level of frustration personally when I'm like, okay, I've been teaching a long time, I should be able to do this. But what would you recommend to kind of ease that, to say, it's going to take X number of times before you're more proficient at this?
Honestly, sorry. Yeah, tell me. Sorry. Honestly, guys, it takes some time. I didn't touch a micropipetter until grad school, like, and it took quite a while to get really good at it. And especially when you're talking about micropipetting such small amounts. You know, it's one thing when we're playing with filter paper with Biotech 1 kids. It's another thing when we're trying to troubleshoot why something in iGEM didn't work. So give yourself grace. It does take a while, and that's okay. And mostly it's just practicing and practicing and practicing. You know, and like when Janet makes it look so easy when she's, you know, mixing dyes with a micropipette. When you're trying to show kids how to do that, you gotta be really careful, because if they suck up the dye too much, it's getting on the tip of the actual micropipette, and that can be a problem. So I would just say, you know, practice with water, practice with dyed water. I love Cynthia's idea where you can kind of compare your dot size so you can see how heavy your hand is. Because sometimes too, you know, 5 microliters for one person looks different than another if your technique isn't perfect. So, you know, just as Kristen was saying, the more you do it, the better you're going to feel about it. Just don't expect yourself to be perfect, nor the kids. The first, you know, I would say give yourself, or your kids at least, the first semester before you give them something where they have to be super precise in order for it to work. Because they just need time. Just like with a microscope, you know, it's one thing they make cells and they look at them one time, and then, you know, you expect them to be able to work a microscope. We know they can't do that. So same thing with micropipettes. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to drop in the chat. Mini PCR put together a video, like a how to micropipette video that goes over all these basics. It's like 5 minutes long. And the host is actually the same person that in the video Janet showed about like how to stupid proof your experiment. She's actually a member of the Mini PCR team, and she's great. So
Yeah,
I'll drop
she
that
is
in the
amazing.
chat. Yeah.
Can you mute that? Oh, okay. So can you turn the sound down? Here. There we go. Let's try this. So something I also really stress to the kids, especially when they're using the colored dyes, is that never, ever, ever tip up. Only ever tip down. And I do this whole little thing, like they're not laser swords, right? Or whatever they're called. Lightsabers. Sorry. I should know that. They're not lightsabers. You always have your tip down. And then some of you got filter tips. Even if they don't fit your pipetter, the filter tips are there to keep any of those little aerosols from going up inside the pipetter.
Also ridiculously expensive.
And filtered tips are very, very
So
expensive.
expensive.
Something I do after I have to share these pipetters with Honors Bio, so that means 9th graders are using these. After I have them use them, I have my upper level students calibrate them. And you can calibrate them. There's in your box, you probably got a little screw set, and you can calibrate them, and there's videos on how to do it. But basically there's a little screw that goes into this wheel, and you just use water and the density of water on a good balance. And so if it's 50 microliters, then it should be obviously 0.05 milligrams. Did I do that right? Yeah. Yeah, okay. I don't math. So anyway, how are you doing with those color wheels? Anybody willing to share their color wheel?
Well, maybe y'all can continue to work on them while we hear from Miss Leslie
Everybody's
Hudson.
like, no way.
Nope. I don't see any takers. Y'all feel free to post them later. Email them. We'll email them to everybody else.
So the other thing, Sheena, nice.
So the other thing is students want to try to, you know, they're the one-handed wonders, right? They're like trying to pipette with just using one hand. I talk about the importance of bracing. And then I talk about the detriment of over bracing. So I'm gonna put this
Here, do you want to hold that?
No, I got it. Okay, I got it. So I sort of just like lean my two hands together when I brace, you know, like this, so that because I'm older and I'm not as steady as I used to be. And so that helps. But some students want to like grip it like they're at the desk grip. And then of course that causes fatigue. And then also because they're gripping it like the desk grip, they're usually likely then to be going to the second stop every time they pipette. And so they're using up all that extra resources that they don't need to be using, and they're not measuring the correct amounts.
Cool. All right, we ready to hear from some speakers?
Yeah. So does anybody have any questions about what we did so far today?
I have a quick question.
Yeah. I can see Laura
Brandy?
pipetting there.
Brandy's raising her hand.
Who is?
Brandy.
Oh, Brandy, go ahead.
So to make the color wheel, we have to, so I need to put mix the colors on the.
Oh, I can't hear you, Brandy.
Uh-oh.
I think it's on your end, Janet.
Oh.
So to mix the colors, I have to put it on the paraffin film first before I put it on the filter paper, correct? So put it on this paper.
Yep.
Before I put it on this paper.
Yep. So put it on the plastic waxy side. There's like a side that says parafilm and it's like a piece of paper. Flip it to the other side and then do your pipetting on that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
So
welcome.
when you want to use this side instead of this.
It's the feedback.
Okay. I promise next we'll figure this all out.
Good. All right, cool.
And if you don't have parafilm, you can use wax paper, you know, paper plates that just have a waxy coating on them. There's all kinds of things. You can even use just cling wrap. Cling wrap I don't use because it doesn't stay out, you know, spread out very nice. But there's lots of options for you because parafilm can be expensive and it's magical, but not everybody has access to it.
But wax paper is super cheap and works just as well.
And I gave you guys, I think there were like 6 pieces of parafilm in each bag. So you can also cut it into those quarters and so that you're not putting it on all the pieces at the same time. Just use one at one time. So.
Brandy, are you good?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm starting on my color wheel.
Good. No, take your time. Yay.
Sorry.
Cool. Well, you guys have a coloring activity while we hear from our speakers. So first, we're going to hear from Leslie Hudson, who works at Quest Diagnostics here in Atlanta. She's going to tell us a little bit about her career in a more impromptu session. So if you guys have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and I will throw them at her as we go.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hey, Leslie.
Hi. Thank you for having me, Megan. It's a pleasure to be here, and I won't take up a lot of your time, but I think I just want to start with some of the different careers at Quest and where we are right now and the accomplishments that we've made since COVID. We all know that we're ready for this pandemic to go away, right? But they've done a tremendous job in regards to being able to handle right now. I think our test capacity is up to 200,000 per day, which is great. So in March, when this first started, we were like 40, they had already tested like 400,000. But I am so excited to know that they are being able to do this in a 1 to 2 day turnaround time. So that is excellent. So we are excited about that. I was looking for the specifics so I can let you guys know in regards to how many million tests they have they've done 18.7 million tests so far for COVID. And for the antibody, they've done 4.1 million. So that is awesome. So we've had some tremendous growth and are doing very well on that regards. In regards to, you know, when I saw Miss Janet pipetting, it took me back to my days, but I don't really remember pipetting with that particular pipette. I remember having the bulb, the old school. So I've been out of med tech school for over 30 plus years. So it's been a long time since I've been in a laboratory. So that's pretty high tech and that's pretty cool. But when you go on our website, the majority of the jobs that you may see for the high school students are going to be couriers or phlebotomists. And how do they get into those fields? Well, I am right now a patient services supervisor at Quest, and I actually hire phlebotomists. A lot of times we get those from some of the temp agencies. And I know right now they have several schools where they can go and take phlebotomy training. Maybe it's a 3-month program. And when they get out of there, they can get experience by signing up with an agency. And as long as they can stick, they can draw, then I will hire them on as a phlebotomist with Quest. And that has happened quite often. You know, one of the main things that I do, especially with a student that's fresh out of school, I am no scary cat of the needles. I will actually put my arm out and say, okay, let me see if you can draw me. And if they can draw my blood, then they're good to go. And that is a great entry level, you know, place to come in, because once they're there, there's so many benefits and opportunities for them. We have an amazing tuition reimbursement program where the employees can go to school and they can maintain a BS degree or get a master's degree. And I actually took that role, and I'm gonna tell you where I started. So my journey, I'm from Mississippi. My mom was a nurse. And in high school, when I'm trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I knew I wanted to be in the medical field. Well, I actually remembered going through my babysitter when I was much younger, not in high school. I didn't have a babysitter, but when I was much younger, my babysitter was actually in medical technology school. And I would look at her books and I would look at anatomy and physiology, and that just struck my interest. I was like, wow, I want to do what she's doing. And so I went to school. I went to University of Southern Miss. I went there, graduated in December 1989. So when I get to Atlanta, my first job was actually right here in Atlanta, in the city. It was Georgia Baptist back in the day. It's called Atlanta Medical Center now. I remember being there, and within that first year, I'm like, this is not what I want to do. I was so disappointed. Now I did well in regards to, you know, the testing, but it was something in my life just was missing. I am not that individual that just want to sit in the laboratory and work behind the machines and look under the microscope all day. I left Georgia Baptist after a few years, and I went to Quintiles Laboratories. And I'm not sure if any of you guys ever heard of that, but Quintiles Laboratories is a clinical research organization. So they partner with different pharmaceutical companies to provide their testings for different drugs. I went there as a medical technologist, but after that 1 year, I was promoted to a project manager, and that was my world. Now, you know, that's my lane. In that project management role, I was able to actually be the project manager for that clinical research organization with what we know as Tamiflu. You know, when a drug, before it comes on the market, it goes through all the clinical trial studies. So our laboratory at that time partnered with Roche and Gilead, those pharmaceutical companies that produce Tamiflu, and that was my drug. It was challenging because at that time we had to make sure that that influenza sample get to the lab within 24 hours. So just imagine, you got these samples coming from all over the United States and having to organize them to come to our laboratory to be tested in a certain time frame. And that was great, loved that field. But after a while, I was tired of traveling, because it did allow me the opportunity to travel to Paris and go to different places internationally. But I was a single mom, and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. And now I'm at Quest. So Quest Diagnostics, I've been there for, this is my 19th year, and I manage the phlebotomy staff in different areas. So I probably have managed, so many different phlebotomists in different territories. I mentioned our tuition reimbursement. So I am happy I told Megan the other day, I had some great news. I recently applied for a position, and I don't start until like the end of November, but it's an employee relations specialist in HR. Now, how did I get from the life sciences and clinical all the way now moving into an HR role? Well, I know that I'm a people person. And one of the things that I like to do is to motivate my team and do different things. So I'll always send them like a motivational Monday message, an email. And in one of those emails, I said, hey guys, Quest has an opportunity for you to go back to school, and just encouraging them to be they can be all that they can be, right? So in that email, I put a link to Capella. And I think it was another school, just to let them know that we partnered with Capella and the other school. And I decided to click on that link myself. So I clicked on the link to Capella, and I started seeing what you see now on the TV all the time. You have a Capella commercial, and they're talking about FlexPath. And I'm like, what the heck is that? What is FlexPath? And I called the number, and I spoke with an enrollment counselor that day. And so we started to have a conversation, and she said, well, busy individuals like yourself, FlexPath gives you the opportunity to go to school, and it's not so at your own pace. And I was like, really? And the next question was, well, how do you know what field you should go in? Is there some type of an assessment to take to learn what you like, what you don't like, so I won't make another mistake again, right? And she said, yeah, but just tell me a little bit about yourself. And I told her about some of the things that I've done in the company in regards to training programs and working closely with HR and speaking engagements with other outside of the company. And she mentioned psychology. Have you ever thought about going into a field of psychology? And I said, no, not really, but I've talked to quite a few psychologists in my years, right? And she said, okay. So she talked about industrial organizational psychology. Now, some of you may have heard that before. I didn't know what that was, but I was actually already sort of doing some of the things in that role in my current field. And I am happy to state that I am 3 classes shy of maintaining a master's degree. And it just so happened an opportunity came available with Quest that is aligned with my career path that I was hired for. So that is so exciting. So I guess this kind of nugget here is that the opportunities are, oh wow, they're everywhere in the science field. Even though I got a degree in medical technology and I found out that that really wasn't my passion, it's that having that degree though did give me the opportunity to move to different levels and different places. So the high school students definitely can come get a job with Quest Diagnostics, as a driver, as a courier, as a lab tech, because right now in handling and processing all of those COVID samples, we have to have tons of people on the night shift because it's a 365 day facility. So we are constantly doing those tests 365 days a year. So once they're there and they like life sciences, they don't have a problem with handling blood or urine or specimens, that is an opportunity. That's a route for them to come with an awesome company and also be able to go to school in a life science degree, get a life science degree. They may want to be a cytotech or a histologist or something of that nature. So that's where I am right now. Any questions?
So I see one in the chat. What kind of in-house training do you do for a courier position or for phlebotomy?
not absolutely certain in regards to in-house training for the couriers. The couriers, I know, are our drivers. You see the cars come around, the white with our green logo, and they are trained in safety. They do have to take a driver's exam, as with any person within our company that drives a company vehicle. You do have to go through driver safety, and it's ongoing. It's not just one class, it's continuous. But I know that they do have to go through the frozen samples, making sure they stay frozen. And basically they use a little scanner when they go to the facility to pick up the samples and scan to make sure all the samples are there and can bring them back to the laboratory. For the phlebotomists, even though we hire a lot of temp employees, those temp employees are treated just like they're our own anyway. They have to go through our phlebotomy academy. And that phlebotomy academy right now, due to the pandemic, is done online. But on the other side of that, they have the trainers that go over every module and all the safety precautions that they need to have and what our systems are actually like in the field.
Awesome. Any other questions? Y'all feel free to unmute and ask yourselves too.
Leslie, what kind of, with your typical couriers and phlebotomists, what is their background? Especially, what is their background before they're coming in? Are they typically coming straight out of high school or a technical school, or what kinds of people do you get, and what is the most successful skill set someone comes in with?
Customer service. I am going to say you can be a great phlebotomist all day long, but if you don't have the customer service skills, that great personality, and love to work with people, you're not going to be successful in either one of those careers. We pride ourselves on getting the feedback from our customers, and that's one of the things that we monitor each and every week. And they are patient satisfaction surveys. It is so important to us that our patients are taken care of. So we give the patients the opportunity to rate the individuals, the phlebotomists for sure. So I think that, yes, if you can draw blood, that's great. But if you're not happy doing that job and you don't have a great personality skills, you won't be successful. And oh, you asked me too. Yes, we do hire people right out of school. I think what happens is if they go through the agencies, that's better for us because it kind of gives us a feel for them. And we don't mind training them, but they have to know how to draw the blood. Once they go through the phlebotomy academy or phlebotomy technical school, then they're good to go.
And somebody asked about the in-house training. Maybe another way to think about that would be orientation period. A lot of companies will give some sort of orientation for those softer skills or to understand the culture of Quest. So, you know, they're getting the hard skills through school right now and beyond perhaps, but does Quest have some sort of orientation that helps with the softer skills?
Yes, the Phlebotomy Academy is a 1 week long program that tells you about the technical and all of that. But once they are hired to go into a doctor's office, or maybe they're at one of our patient service centers, we have what we call coaches/mentors. So those mentors are there with them, I want to say 2 to 3 weeks before we leave them alone. So in that process, they watch the trainer or the mentor, so to speak, and that mentor then watches them. So they're able to directly relate to, you know, maybe next time when you have another patient, instead of saying this is what you should say. So yes, we do have different scripts, different things like that, that will help them in their journey so that they will be successful.
Nice. So You said you're from Mississippi. In Georgia, we have these tracks for secondary school, and many of the teachers on here today are a teacher within one of those tracks. And so health sciences is one, and students can actually graduate as a certified phlebotomist after their senior year or by their senior year. So what would you recommend, or do you have any tips or recommendations for the teachers on today to help their students prepare either for an interview or prepare for that role to get the interview?
One of the things that we have, before I get a list of individuals that have applied for a job that I post, our recruiters are going to screen them per se, right? Unless there's someone that I know and they say, hey, Leslie, so-and-so is applying for a job. Can you look at their resume? And I'm able to go and pull that person, right? They are gonna, even before when they apply, it's not simple, cut and dry, what's your name, address. They actually go through different assessments online, and some of them don't make it through the assessment, to be honest with you. Some of them, once they go through the assessment, they look at the scores and then they come over to me. When I interview them, I'm asking them some of those basic questions. It may be, explain to me how you process a frozen sample, a frozen plasma even. And if that person tells me that you first draw a marble top, a tiger top, a red top, then I'm not going to go any further, because I'm thinking you should understand the difference between serum and plasma, that the plasma is going to be drawn in the lavender or the green top tube, right? So those are some of the basics. They will have to know what color tube and what tests generally are going to relate to that color tube. That's going to be the basics.
So a little bit of studying.
Hi, Leslie. Are there any jobs at Quest that a fresh out of high school student could get where they're actually working at a lab bench? Maybe not drawing blood, but something that they can do in the lab to use some of the skills they would have learned. Like the pathway I teach is biotechnology research and development. So they have some skills that most kids don't by the time they graduate from high school. So just wondering if there are any jobs immediately available to them in a lab at Quest.
Right. I want to say those jobs would be our processors. So they hire processors. They come in and they work the night shift. And I will need to go and look at the actual name of that position, but I want to say that would be that entry level way to come in, is of being a processor.
Thanks. Yeah, and we're happy to share. I'm happy to share whatever you're able to pull, Leslie.
Okay.
Awesome. Do we have any more questions? You guys are nice and overwhelmed tonight. So, well, thank you so much, Leslie, for joining us.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hope to see you guys. I want to come visit some of the schools. I do that here in Atlanta at different schools for Career Day, but I was amazed with Miss Janet with the pipette, and that really took me back. Great exercise.
So, Leslie, usually we like to ask if you offer tours or field trips. So either tours for teachers to come in and just see what Quest looks like, whether it's a lab or one of the other sectors, the warehouse or anything like that, which of course, right now, none of that's happening, but in the future for visits, but also, like you said, for career days, that's really helpful. And there are a lot of virtual career days going on.
Right.
So if somebody would like to connect with you for that, what would be the best way?
Yeah, that would be awesome. Actually, we have had students to come in to visit our lab, because we went through and we were the first lab within Quest Diagnostics to become a lean lab, where they actually organize everything to look at the number of steps it takes to do this, to try to make it much leaner and simpler. But yes, I'm pretty sure once COVID is over, we can definitely have the teachers come in and do a lab. What would be awesome, I can find out if they can even do it virtual. Maybe someone can take a camera and just guide you through the lab, and you can actually see, you know, the samples when they come in that processing area that I mentioned, and then where it goes from there, the different machines and all of that. So I can see about that.
Great.
That'd be great.
And if can you guys maybe just raise your hand or in the chat if you're doing virtual career days this year, if that would help to try to book Leslie, or Leslie, you know, reach out to her colleagues perhaps, if you would take advantage of something like
I would
that.
love it.
All right, we're
I would
already
Great.
getting some feedback.
Yeah, I hear Stan, Sheena said yes.
So Leslie, maybe after this, you and I, or you and Megan, can connect on how best to go about scheduling something like that.
Absolutely. And if we can't do it virtually, I know that we have a video already that shows you the different, and maybe we can just share that, and I can get the lab manager or one of the lab managers to connect with you guys on your next call, and he can go more in depth in regards to the different machines and stuff like that.
Okay, that's fantastic.
Yeah, be great. Awesome.
Well, thank you again, Leslie. We really appreciate your time and fitting this in, and then bonus that we're going to be able to still connect with you.
Yeah,
The other
absolutely.
teachers will connect with you over the course of the year, and I'm sure moving into many years from now.
Absolutely, no problem. I was glad to do it. Call me anytime.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, so we are scheduled. We have our next speaker coming on in just a few minutes at 5 o'clock, but I see that she's not quite on yet. So I'm just gonna, if anyone needs a bathroom break, I think I see a lot of people in your classroom. If you're not, and the best part of virtual is probably being able to take bathroom breaks on maybe your own time, but now back in school, it's different. So if you need a bathroom break right now, go ahead. And then otherwise you can continue with your pipetting practice, your color wheel stuff. And then we should be starting with our next speaker in about 1 minute.
I wanted to show off what a student did. It started off as a mistake, and then he kind of went very creative, which then spurred a whole artistic movement. Had some extra time, and so the students all wanted to create a creative color wheel with pipetting, and which was great. It just gave them more opportunity to practice, and I keep this one because I thought it was really pretty.
It is.
So if anybody,
I bid $3.50.
I'll take it.
That's how we're gonna fund our programs, folks.
So if anybody has your color wheel that you're willing to share, we'd love to see them.
Got a shy crew today.
There's Dr. First.
Recipes to art.
I trashed mine. I'm sorry. I didn't know I had to show it.
Oh, Stan.
And follow
Yeah,
directions.
don't do these things up front.
There's Cynthia's.
Oh, nice, Felicia. Nice, Cynthia.
Awesome.
Too bad that we can't put photos in the Zoom chat.
Oh yeah, Felicia, yours looks good.
Thank you. I enjoy it.
So, Kayla, does your classroom have like a camera up in the corner?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how.
I was trying to figure out how you have a camera view there.
Who's this?
Kayla.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she has like just like a whole classroom thing. They're like, oh.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
Okay, so it's 5:31, so I'm trying to be a stickler. Yep, I'm that person for trying to stay on time today, which means you'll get out on time. And I know it's a long day, so thank you guys. We're really happy that you're doing this. So I saw that Dr. Ferguson Knoll is on. So we have Dr. Ferguson Knoll from UGA's Poultry Diagnostic and Research Center. And she's a doctor of veterinary medicine. And she got her training and degree in the West Indies, and then her master's of avian medicine, and her PhD in medical microbiology at UGA. So she's there now, and she's not only in that research center, but she also does some training through her position there with industry and those that are in the lab. And so with Georgia's huge poultry industry and many of y'all in the agricultural sciences, we wanted to bring in a speaker who could speak to that and really help connect the dots between what you're doing in the classroom and all these skills that you're learning throughout this course into how that transfers into careers for your students, because I'm sure every single one of you has heard, what's the point of this at some point in your career? And so Dr. Ferguson Knoll is going to give you guys some more examples of what the point is so that you can put that in your arsenal for your students. So Dr. Ferguson Knoll, welcome.
Okay, I have to make sure I'm unmuted now.
You're good.
Thank you so much. How are you guys doing? I hope everybody had a great day. This was day one, right?
Yes.
Day one.
Yeah, that's great. Am I going to be able to share my screen? If I have I have a few pictures and stuff. So
absolutely. So just as you scroll your cursor over your screen, you'll see at the bottom a green share screen.
I see. Wait, let me get that. Okay, now you guys can see all the junk I have on my desktop.
You're busy.
Yeah, unfortunately. And now I have to find the right PowerPoint. Oh, here it is. Great. Well, thank you so much for inviting me to speak to you guys today. I'm always really excited to talk about my work, especially to people that may not know very much about what goes on the inside of the poultry industry, and poultry diagnostics is not something that people tend to know a lot about. So I'm always really excited to talk to people about that. Stop me anytime if you have any questions. Just, as I said, let me know. We can keep it going and keep it interesting, hopefully, for everybody. So I think you got a little bit of background on me, but I just wanted to introduce myself again. As I said, I am a veterinarian. I am not from Georgia. I have been in Georgia for 20 years, but I don't seem to be picking up the accent very well. So I'm originally from the Caribbean, from a tiny island called Trinidad. And I did my veterinary training down there. And after I finished vet school, I realized that I really wanted to get into poultry. And of course, as you guys know, if you want to get into poultry, the place to be is going to be Georgia. So I came to University of Georgia to do a master's or a specialty in poultry medicine. So that was the MAM. And then I really fell in love with applied research. So I stayed on at Georgia, and I did a PhD in medical microbiology. So I said, my husband is also from Trinidad, and he's also a veterinarian. And the way he likes to tell the story is that after I finished vet school, I said I was going to come for this 18-month training program, and then I was going to come back home. And here we are 18 years later, I'm still in Georgia. So once he realized I was staying, he decided he was going to come up here too. So I work at UGA, he works at Georgia Tech, he's a lab animal veterinarian, and I'm a poultry veterinarian, but also a microbiologist. So I always like to brag on Georgia in terms of that's why I am here. The poultry industry is tremendously important to the Georgia state economy. Billions of pounds of chicken are produced in Georgia every day, every week. And I'm not sure if everybody really understands how big Georgia is in poultry. if Georgia was a country, it would be the 4th largest producer of chicken in the world. So Georgia on its own produces more chicken than any other state in the United States. And there are only 3 countries that produce more chicken than Georgia. And that's going to be Brazil, China, Russia, and that's it. The poultry industry for Georgia is its leading agricultural moneymaker. So it's bigger than, definitely bigger than peaches, pecans, peanuts, all of those things. Pine, poultry, which means chicken and eggs, is the #1. And this is not a new thing. This has been going on for decades. Georgia's been a leader in the poultry industry and poultry production for more than 25 consecutive years. They've been #1, which is why we have such a strong program at the University of Georgia in terms of poultry and supporting the poultry industry. We work very closely with the producers and the farmers to make sure that they have what they need in order to be successful in poultry. So this is where I work at the Poultry Diagnostic and Research Center. It is part of the College of Veterinary Medicine at the University of Georgia. It is a world leader in poultry diagnostics in terms of the diagnostics itself, as well as research and teaching and training. Okay. So this is where I did my master's as well as my PhD. So any university is going to have 3 different facets to its mission. And that's going to be service, research, and teaching. So I'm going to focus quite a bit on the service part of it, as well as the research, and I'm going to touch on our teaching as well. Most of our teaching is to graduate students and vet students, but also we teach industry professionals as well as technicians as well. So our diagnostic services, world renowned. I keep saying that we're #1, but you know, we have to be #1 in something, you know, maybe we'll beat Alabama one day. I don't know. Let's see. But we receive samples from all over the world to our poultry diagnostic lab. We get quite a bit international, but also national samples, as well as things from around the corner in Georgia. We are a reference lab for the industry. My lab in particular that looks at mycoplasma is the only national reference lab that is outside of the NVSL diagnostic lab network. So we're the only non-federal reference lab. Okay. So our diagnostic service in general, we do lots of different things. Sometimes people like farmers will bring us whole chickens, and we will do a necropsy, which is the animal version of an autopsy, to look for lesions of disease. We can also, of course, look for microscopic lesions in different tissues. One of the things that we've always done, and I think is more along the lines of traditional bacteriology, is that we isolate different pathogens from tissues that may be, of course, causing disease. We also do quite a bit of serology, looking for antibodies in blood samples, looking for exposure to different diseases. But what we're going to focus on today, of course, is our molecular bacteriology and virology. And we have been using molecular techniques in our diagnostic lab since the late 90s, I suppose. I think in terms of agricultural industries, poultry tends to be at the forefront of implementing new diagnostics. We've had, as I said, we've had different workshops where we train technicians in different techniques so that they can go back to their state labs and do some of these things. And we invite different people to come. And sometimes we invite industry partners that are people that are providing reagents for other types of research or forensics. And one of the things that I've heard over and over again very consistently is that we have the ability to implement things more quickly. And we are using the same techniques that they would be using in forensic medicine, for example, but we're able to actually put them into our system and implement them more quickly. Okay. So I'd like to introduce you to my favorite bacteria. This is the focus of all of my research. It is called Mycoplasma. I think my mom can say it by now that I've been working on it for like 20 years, but it's all good. So as I said, it is a bacteria, but it is a very special bacteria. It is very different from what we think of typical bacteria like Salmonella and E. coli. They have no cell wall, which is a characteristic of every other bacteria. They are very, very tiny. They are the smallest free living organism, and they have a very, very tiny genome. And all of those things make them very difficult to control, but also make it very difficult to diagnose as well. The other thing, like I always like to mention about mycoplasma, is that they're very host specific. There are mycoplasmas everywhere. There are mycoplasmas that infect almost every animal. There are mycoplasmas that infect turtles, reptiles like lizards and alligators, as well as, of course, chickens and human beings. But there is no crossover usually. So the mycoplasmas that infect chickens are of no risk to human health. Okay. So I'm going to use mycoplasma as an example of how we use these techniques to diagnose diseases in the field. But one of the things that is also particular to mycoplasma is that it is a highly regulated disease. There are some diseases that have the potential to be very devastating to the poultry industry. And because of that, on a state level, as well as a federal level and internationally, they are monitored very, very closely. And this is a list of the diseases that are of greatest importance in terms of regular monitoring. Some of these diseases, like avian influenza, for example, as well as some of the salmonellas, can devastate the poultry industry because they make the birds so sick that they have just a very high mortality. And we really want to make sure that the farmers stay in business, as well as we have a secure food supply. So it's very important that we keep track and make sure that we're not allowing these diseases into our industry. We have some other diseases like Salmonella enteritidis, as well as avian influenza, that also have human health implications. So we want to monitor them very closely to make sure that, of course, we are protecting human health as well as poultry health. And you can see that there are 3 mycoplasmas on this list as well. So there is monitoring ongoing in the poultry industry every day for all of these diseases. And that is usually through blood sampling. So of the billions of chickens in the US, as well as internationally, there are birds that are being sampled. So a selection of those birds are being bled to look for antibodies on a very regular basis. Some birds, depending on the type of production, are going to be bled as often as every 2 weeks. Some of them as often as every 3 months. And what we are doing is looking for the disease, because what we want to do is detect it as early as possible and contain it if we can. Okay, so what happens typically in a mycoplasma case or diagnostic situation? As I said, our first line of defense is going to be serology. So we bleed a sample of the chickens, and in this instance, we are looking for antibodies. Most of the time, we're doing an ELISA test, looking for these antibodies that show exposure to mycoplasma disease. And what happens if we have a positive? Several things happen. One of the things with serology and these types of serological tests is that they are not very specific. So they are very inexpensive. So we are able to test lots and lots of birds very quickly and get answers quickly for not very much outlay of money. But when we get positives, we have to confirm that it's a real infection because they are low specificity. So some things happen when we have a serological positive, and this is usually, as I said, just from the routine monitoring. One of the things we do is repeat the serology right away, and that may involve going back and bleeding another sample of birds. But then we also move on to some of our confirmatory tests, which are going to be PCR as well as culture. So in this picture here, you can see someone, I don't think it's me, I think it's one of my students, taking a sample from chickens in a chicken house. I don't know if you can see my slide here. That's the swab, and that is the chicken's trachea. That's the laryngeal opening. So we take a swab from here, and that's what goes into either our PCR or our culture. So culture or isolation of the organism is something that we have been doing for decades. It is a gold standard for avian mycoplasma diagnostics. But there are some problems with culture. One, the main problem is that it's really slow. Mycoplasma require very specialized media, and they grow very slowly. So it can take a week up to a month before we can get a diagnosis using culture, which is why we do PCR instead. There are many state labs that are doing serology and PCR. Almost nobody is doing culture anymore because it's such a highly specialized technique for mycoplasma. I still do it at my lab. My lab has been around and doing this for 40 years. So we know what we're doing, but it's not something that is necessarily being taught or being learned or put into practice in other labs. But PCR is something, as long as you have the equipment and the training, you can do. And especially something like PCR, if you're doing PCR for other organisms, you can also do PCR for mycoplasma. So you can have the very similar techniques, similar machine, and still do PCR for several different bacterial pathogens. PCR is very quick. We can get you same-day results. And when we are thinking about a disease like mycoplasma, one of the things we have to remember is we need a rapid diagnosis, because this disease, as we said, could have a devastating effect on the industry. So it's something that we want to diagnose very rapidly so that we can have some sort of intervention to see that we can contain this disease. So once we get a PCR positive or a culture positive, certain things happen. That flock is now positive, and we have to have some sort of outcome for that flock. In the US, depending on the type of production, most of the time, those flocks are going to be sacrificed. That is what the safest thing that we can do to contain that infection. It becomes very, very important for us to be very sure that this flock is positive and to have a lot of confidence in our PCR. Eliminating these positive flocks can cost a poultry company $500,000 just in terms of downward accumulation of costs and penalties. So it's something that we have to be very sure about. We have to be very confident in our PCR techniques in order to tell a company, yes, your flock is positive, you need to go ahead and put this flock down. Some of these flocks, if they're not sacrificed, depending on the industry and what's going on, they may be treated with antimicrobials as well. In the US, that doesn't tend to happen very much. There are very few antimicrobials that we can legally administer to animals that are going to enter the food chain. So once you start treating a flock, the directions in terms of where that flock can go become very limited. Because this is a monitored disease, there are restrictions on animal movement as well. If you have a mycoplasma positive flock, you can't pack them up and take them to North Carolina, for example. That's illegal, that's against the law. So the diagnostics, as I said, becomes very important for us. So a lot of labs stop in terms of our diagnostics right there. But at PDRC, we like to give what I call value-added diagnostics. So one of the things that we do, in addition to our PCR, is DNA sequencing. So, mycoplasma sequencing. What we do here is we first do a PCR, several PCRs actually, that target different areas of the mycoplasma genome. And these areas have been shown to differentiate between different strains of mycoplasma. So when we do our PCR and we read our sequence from our different targets, we are able to generate a DNA profile for our Mycoplasma organism. And the reason that we're doing this is we want to try to figure out where this Mycoplasma is coming from and hopefully stop any further introductions of this particular Mycoplasma strain. So this is not so much about the flock itself in terms of whether this flock will have to be killed or not killed. This is about trying to figure out how this Mycoplasma came in and what we can do to stop this happening. So when a flock is positive, one of the things that happens usually is an epidemiological investigation. And this may be conducted by state employees. It may be internally by the company as well. For example, Pilgrims may have a set of questions, but the Georgia state officials may also have a set of questions depending on the flock. And there are lots of questions. Most of the questions are going to be connected to whether or not somebody came onto this farm and they had contact with other birds, because that is usually the source for Mycoplasma infections. And a lot of the times from all of the DNA profiling that we've been doing over the last 20 years in Georgia, what we found out is that a lot of our industry positives come from contact with small flocks. So those are going to be people with just a few birds in their backyard, and or somebody who just has like a few birds that have eggs. These are really pretty chickens, and people love them. But the source for a lot of the birds that end up in these flocks tend to be things like exchanges, internet, flea markets, and they don't necessarily have the pedigree or the testing for diseases like Mycoplasma. So a lot of these birds tend to be positive. And the other thing about Mycoplasma, as well as other diseases, is that sometimes the birds can be infected and have no clinical signs. So you can have a flock of very healthy looking chickens, but they're positive for Mycoplasma, and somebody has contact with these birds. For example, you have a temporary employee who has 6 birds in his backyard. He comes to take care of your birds and he brings Mycoplasma in there as well. And then your birds get sick, or the industry's birds get sick, and then it turns into a huge industry outbreak. So there are lots of questions involved here, but what I am able to provide is that DNA profile. So once we ask all those questions and we find a potential connection, I can test the potential birds. Usually, as I said, it's going to be a small flock. And if the DNA profiles match, then I can say definitely this is where this Mycoplasma infection came from. Now, what happens next? A lot of people ask me if they have to eliminate their birds, especially their pet birds. Nobody can actually make you do that. So there's no legal requirement. There's nothing where anybody can force you to eliminate your pet birds because they got Mycoplasma from your birds. There are going to be some companies who try to buy pet birds that are close to their commercial operations. They definitely put in place requirements for their employees not to have any contact with any birds or not to own any birds or things like that. But this is how we use PCR as well as DNA sequencing to hopefully improve the health of the poultry industry and to protect the industry and the food supply. Do we have any questions? I don't see the chat or anything, so I don't know. I'm just going.
Well, I was going to say, and this is Kristen, and my background is elementary, so I've not gone into this deep of even bio really. But your epidemiology investigation it seems to be kind of similar to what we're talking about today is contact tracing for COVID.
It's very similar. Yes.
Yeah. It's kind of a nice one of those silver linings that'll be a good, parallel to draw, I guess, for kids in school today.
Yes, it's very interesting for me now. As a veterinarian, I'm not sure that a lot of the general public realizes how, involved veterinarians are with epidemiology and how much training we have in that area. And being able to deal with a flock of animals is very different from dealing with a flock of humans. But we've been able to build databases and skills because we're dealing with short-lived animals that can translate very easily to human health and human outbreaks as well. And it's been very interesting for me to see the veterinarians involved in the COVID-19 outbreak measures as well, and seeing databases and that type of stuff as well. And that also relates to some of my research as well. Nothing to do with coronavirus, but looking at shifting genotypes and virulence and that type of thing with mycoplasma as well.
So you said that the veterinary group, they are being consulted for COVID?
Yes. So there, for, let me see, maybe the last 10 years, I suppose, One Health has been a very big push. And One Health really brings together animal and human health together. So there, for the last, 10, 15 years, both the veterinarians as well as the human health practitioners have been trying to integrate different concepts so that we can work together to make all health better. So a lot of these different teams, they have veterinarians with them as well. Because looking at a flock of chickens somehow can translate to looking at a group of human beings as well.
That's great. One Health was ahead of the game.
Yeah, they were. So it's been good.
So I've got a question real quick. So is there a common name for mycoplasma, and how do you track it? Do you use an ELISA type test, an antibody test for it as well?
Yes. So there is not really a common name. What people in the industry call it a lot is air sac disease or just air sac. But that's really fallen out of favor now. Most people just call it mycoplasma. But mycoplasma also affects different types of poultry. So we've been talking about chickens a lot, but it also affects pheasants and quail, and they will all have different names for it. Bulgy eye, soapy eye. I mean, there are a lot of different names, but it all comes down to mycoplasma. So our initial monitoring is going to be serology. It's going to be ELISAs and looking for antibodies. But then we confirm positives using PCR. But I lost my train of thought, sorry. It's gone.
That answers it.
Okay, great.
Megan, can I say something?
Yeah.
So just a small plug for everybody in here. One, love UGA. My boyfriend's actually working on his doctorate at UGA in poultry nutrition. But if teachers, if y'all ever want to go on an awesome field trip once COVID is over with, Poultry Science does an amazing day where you get to see embryology, a necropsy, a dissection, like, oh good luck, surgeries on them. We killed 60 chickens in one day, and it was amazing. And even though my kids aren't like, they're not going to go into the agricultural industry, that was like one of those times where it showed like something else that they could get involved with. And a lot of the kids that go to Poultry Science end up going to be vet majors. But it was an amazing field trip. Kudos to UGA on that one. It was awesome.
We used to do a lot more of those demo necropsy stuff, but I've had a few people like faint and stuff. So
there was a kid that fainted, but not in my group.
We do less of them now. Oh, I've had people write letters and complain, and that. Oh
wow.
So yeah, they don't want to know where their chicken is coming from. So, from the supermarket.
It's the ugly side of the industry, but the very necessary side.
It is. So, I mean, I enjoy it, but you know, everybody in my lab laughs at me because I'm always the one squishing the lesions and stuff and trying to pop everything. Yeah. Bad. Okay, finish it real quick. I think I have 2 more slides just about my research. I can talk about my research for days. I'm not going to do that to you. But I just wanted to give you a little summary of what I do in terms of research. I do applied research. I didn't know there was such a thing when I was even in vet school. And I enjoy basic research as well. And there are a lot of people, of course, working on things like that about just like the biology of mycoplasma, like what does this protein do and how do mycoplasmas invade the host cell? That's not what I do. What I do is work with the industry to meet their immediate and current needs. So that's why it's so applied. Characterization of recent isolates is one. We monitor and type everything that we find in Georgia. We're very lucky in the US that our prevalence of mycoplasma is actually very low. I travel a lot to South America and Asia, and they are in a much worse situation than we are. We are basically writing on decades of work to try to control mycoplasma, and we are benefiting at this point in time. But we do characterize all the isolates. We want to make sure we don't have a shift in terms of what's going on. We want to make sure that the tools that we have right now are still effective. We want to make sure that our antibiotics still work. We want to make sure that our vaccines are still protecting. I work on vaccines as well. I would evaluate the current vaccines as well as develop new vaccines or improve vaccines. A lot of my research is also tied to the diagnostic lab. As I said, we're a reference lab, so we certify other state labs so that they are approved to conduct mycoplasma diagnostics. Things are changing all the time. There are always new tests. So we are involved in approving the new tests, establishing different cutoffs, whether they work or not, what type of samples we need to use, and then epidemiology and evolution in particular. A lot of the work that we've been doing, we've been gathering data for decades, just looking at what mycoplasma does, how it evolves, what happens when you start using a certain antibiotic, what happens when you introduce a vaccine, things like that. And then virulence determinants. So for some diseases like flu, I keep talking about flu all the time, but it's a good example. We know what genes make one flu virus virulent and what genes make another flu virus avirulent. We don't know that for mycoplasma. So that's something that we're working on all the time. I always like to show this slide because it took me so long to put it together, and I think it's really pretty and colorful. But it is a cartoon showing the genomes of several different mycoplasma isolates. So all of these different tracks represent a different mycoplasma isolate, and the different colors indicate whether or not these individual genes are similar or different in the different strains. And we use comparisons like this to determine, of course, what could be potential genes involved in virulence if we can compare an avirulent and a virulent isolate. We also look for genes that are specific to the vaccines, so we can track vaccines in the field. And we can also develop diagnostic PCRs from this type of information that can detect different strains without having to do DNA sequencing as well. So
we had a question, is that basically a DNA barcode?
Yeah, so this is actually a proteome analysis here. So these are all different strains, isolates going around in the different circles here. And the different colors just indicate how similar or different the different genes are to this one on the outside. So it's not exactly a barcode, it's more like a profile.
Thank you.
Sure.
Go Dogs.
I was gonna say roll tide, but oops.
That's it. Yeah, I've been here long enough. I'm a double dog now, so.
Well, Dr. Ferguson-Knoll, thank you so much for joining us. So much good information and great to hear. And I'm going to send you guys an article about Dr. Ferguson-Knoll's vaccine that she's working on, which is how I came across her. And UGA is just such a phenomenal resource for us to have in our state, not only for the poultry industry, but for so much other research that's going on. I know Stan has spent some time there in the labs. Cynthia shared with us one of those amazing field trips. So thank you so much for sharing what you do, Dr. Ferguson Nolan. You are welcome to join. We're the next several Mondays through December 14th. So anytime you want to jump on, we'll be on here from 4:15 to 6:15, except Thanksgiving week.
That's good.
Thank
Well,
you so
good
much.
luck. I hope you guys enjoy it.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
great
you.
night.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody. So what we will do next is I just wanted to walk you through a little bit of some housekeeping stuff, and then we'll be finished up for tonight. So hopefully you're seeing this screen that says Georgia Bioed Structured Report.
Yep.
Okay, great. So this was sent to you. I can't remember if it was sent or not. It is in the folder of resources. So in the email you got that was full of all kinds of stuff, there was a link to the Going Viral folder on Google Docs or our Google Suite, which everybody's familiar with now since the wonderful pandemic. So I'll just scroll to the end. Attached to that email that you got, there was a contract that we sent out to you. And it just, what we want to do is to be able to give you a stipend for at least some of the time that you're spending with this training. And, you know, we've asked that you purchase some distilled water, which is $1. But just, you know, you're always having to take money out of your pocket. So we just built into the budget to be able to give you a small stipend for some of your time here. And there's a few things that you're going to be doing anyway, but they're just written in here. And this contract is binding to us to pay you when you've completed this kind of stuff. It does not bind you to do anything. So I don't want anyone to be worried that you're signing your life away and that you would owe anything to anybody. It's just simply that if you do this stuff, you will get paid, or, you know, you can make a stink about it. So you'll participate in the sessions. At the end of this, we would like for you to hopefully take even more than one, but at least one of these labs that you're learning and do it with your students by sometime next semester. There's an equipment survey that we'll send out toward the end of this. We have sent out equipment surveys, and we asked you for a little bit of what you have in your classrooms now, but we'll send that out later in the training toward the end, because you'll become a little bit more familiar with some of this equipment. And so for those of you who have not had a whole lot of lab time, it'll actually make more sense to you more toward the end of the training. We will be in the spring semester having a couple of sharing sessions. So since you'll be implementing one of these labs in your classroom, we'd like to gather 2 different times to just have a professional conversation about how that's gone. So you've noticed already, it's so nice to have just a support system of other professionals that are in a similar boat. And so Cynthia's already shared some cool stuff she's done in her classroom, Janet with the color wheel. So it's going to be the same, that whoever implements one of these lessons first, you'll come back and just kind of share how that went, and maybe some mistakes that happen along the way, or some things you noticed that went really well that you want to share with each other. So that's what the sharing session is. It's not super fancy. And then we would ask that you attend at least one of the sharing sessions. It'll benefit you to attend both, but I mean, do what you can. So number 6 was just to implement one of the labs. And then attached to this is a report on how all of this has gone. And so I'll scroll up a little bit for that. So this report, I won't read all through it, but again, it's in the file, in the Google file that's linked. So when you implement in your classroom, you can either invite Megan or I to come be a part of that, or you can set up your phone camera. If you have a classroom, like I know a lot of, well, Stan's school, for example, has a whole film class. So maybe they want to get in on that and do even more fun filming. But you can just set up your camera to film yourself doing the demo. And if you want to film some of the student activity as well, you can. But we don't want to make this harder on you, but do want to be able to see how it's going and how we could maybe do a better job at our end of the professional development. The second piece is you'll just turn in whatever lesson plan you're doing that you've chosen for the lab. And then there is this reflection guided questions piece. And so I'll scroll down to that, and it just talks about just some prompts, like what did you choose? What learning outcomes were you hoping for? It's a self-reflection. How did the delivery go? What might you change next time? What went really well? And so on. And then finally, the student engagement. So did they seem interested? Do you feel like they grew in terms of skills? That they grew in terms of understanding how this is applied to a career? And so to help with that, we just have a very short kind of ticket out in the door and ticket out the door. So let's say you're talking about pipetting. In 1 to 3 sentences, state what you know about pipetting, and I would take off the concept here. And some kids might say, I have no idea what pipetting is. And that's the answer. What careers would you use pipetting? Answer would probably be, I don't know. Well, then afterwards, they would have more things to say. It might be PCR. It could be any of these skills or labs that we're going to learn today. All right, and then at the end of this is your action plan or implementation plan, and this will be filled out on the very last day, our very last session, which is December 14th. And that whole session is dedicated to working together to figure out where would one of these labs that I've learned fit in best to the curriculum that we have. And the idea is hopefully that it's not another thing to do, but something that could replace a lesson or a set of lessons that you're already doing for a certain concept. Pull that out because you're thinking, okay, I know that this lab I just learned is going to be more effective than the one I was doing before. So this sheet that is on the screen now should help you kind of think through what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, where does it fit into the curriculum, what kind of materials do I need from the Bioed Institute. We will get those shipped to you. If you teach biology and you teach 4 sections of that biology, we will ship you enough to be able to teach that, do that lab with all 4 sections of your biology, so that planning wise, you can keep everything the same. If you only teach 1 section of biology, then we'll send you enough for the 1 section. So this sheet, this implementation plan just helps you kind of think through that. Does anybody have any questions?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. So if you would, if you can send the contract once you've signed that, and please let me know if you have any questions. My number, my cell is in my signature, and please feel free if you want to text me or call me on that. That's totally fine. Email is also an option. So if you think of anything after the fact, just let me know, or you have any concerns or anything like that. The Labster is part of the training too for aseptic technique. And then I believe there's a tutorial on pipetting. So if you didn't get to watch that, it's super helpful. And then also Katie from Mini PCR sent a tutorial as well. All right, I'm sorry I went over 1 minute. So everybody have a great night. Thanks again for joining. And these are recorded, so we will have these saved for you in the Going Viral folder on Google if you need to refer to it at all. And we'll see you next Monday. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Brittany and Janet.
Oh, just reach out
Thank you.
if you have questions. My school is on quarantine, so I have a lot of extra time this week if you need special help with pipetting.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you. Not the quarantine part.
No, that's not.
All right. Bye. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Katie.
See ya.
Thanks, Kristen. Thanks,
Bye.
Megan.
Thank you. Did your treat arrive? Brittany?
Brittany, you're. Oh, she's already gone.
All right. Bye, Megan.
Bye.